From the dread mines of Skellen to the veil of boobs which we've yet to see, across the shattered sea and the immemorial city, this is Casterly Talk, the Willow discussions. I, as always, am your host for this adventure, Alden Diaz, once again joined by one of my favorite quest companions. He's yet to use his one cry, although he might on this episode because I covered Kit in the thumbnail. I apologize. It's Nicky Kumar once again. I'm sorry.
Look, like I said, it happens to the best of us.
We all make production mistakes.
Everyone's gotta take a W in the face, So.
That's true. Everyone takes it. It is still a W, though. I think we would agree about this entire episode. It's so weird to be here already at the penultimate episode of this show that has sort of taken over our lives. We talk about it every day.
Yeah, no, it's been a huge thing, especially for us together. Willow was never a part of our friendship, and then for me, I mean, I only watched it like mid-November at best. So it's been a real whirlwind, and it's been so fun, and I've loved every episode, loved all the characters, loved just tuning in every week and talking about it, and. Yeah, and now we're in the business of all business ends.
Yeah, everything hurtling forward, quite literally. We've got a shattered sea, which is also sort of reflective, also kind of mystical. It's got some At World's End vibes, and we're charging forward on a boat that is being pulled by a mudmander who we'll talk about. There's so much this show does such a great job of just here's some more things, and here's some more things, and here's some more things, but it always feels right. Julian Glover getting a wonderful guest starring role, completing the Lucasfilm live action trifecta.
It's wild achievement.
Yeah, a wild achievement. It's fantastic work from our beloved General Veers. Also relevant to Casterly Talk, Grandmaster Pycelle. Maybe not as beloved in that role, but he was damn good in it. We had wonderful character developments here, an incredible training montage set to that bop that was in the trailers, but included way more training than we thought. We got some Elora and Willow. We have some Elora and Graydon. We have quite possibly one of the greatest romance scenes I've seen in anything, a duel where a princess in love with her knight girlfriend asks her not to hold back, and then the two of them are just being the most wonderful couple. I could watch a Kit Jade spinoff after this for years and be happy. Willow finally admitting, at least to some degree, what went down with his family. We don't know what the tragedy or adventure was yet, but there's some great sort of just big pathos that just comes forward from work and from his trauma, and it all leads to a leap of faith, which for two characters who have been at odds the entire season to come to that place as an endpoint was brilliant. Meanwhile, I mentioned it, the immemorial city playing more of a role than it has up until this point. We meet someone calling herself Lily of Kashmir, who I believe is also a princess, at least according to her story.
Right.
And she's played by Rosabelle Laurenti Sellers, who was Tien Sand over in the Game of Thrones side of things. She's wonderful in this. Things get a little bit steamy, but like a lot of things in life, they'll get steamy and then weird.
And complicated.
And very complicated. Yeah. Not everybody can be Borman and Scorpio or Kit and Jade. Sometimes you make out with a stranger and you end up getting a haircut and entering your goth era.
And a lot of like orange shiny water.
Yeah. Lots of orange, sort of weird, like I don't even know how to describe the texture. It kind of looks like beer, sort of like the way that it's sort of, but like it's a very interesting it's an interesting sort of device that's introduced without being explained.
It's like the inside of a gel pen.
Yeah, it's like the inside of a gel pen, weird. But also kind of a portal, because the implication, I guess, being that you can access the city through the mines, or that there's some sort of connection there. It seemed like the trolls were working for the crone.
Right.
The crone does not make her presence known for more than like a flash of Elora's vision with the enemies, with the Gales, but we'll talk about it a little bit when we get to her, is Lily of Kashmir actually the crone? Or is Lily of Kashmir, I hope she's not young Bavmorda, because then that's some grandson stuff. So I'm gonna nix that. I'm gonna nix that theory. But there's so much going on here. But I set it up top. We both love this episode. So talk to me about your impressions of what I would call probably, and you said it as well, the most straight up fantasy epic feeling one of all of these.
It was the one that like just really went for it. It felt like the most almost complete story in and of itself. And just like, I think the one thing when I watched it and I sort of like, the credits are rolling, and I forgot what song they used at the end, but like, credits are rolling. I'm like, whoa. And I feel like I watched The Two Towers. Like that's what it almost felt like, where it's like, this was a really, like, in a trilogy, like a very epic, dark, challenging middle chapter. And I think that's what made it so good. It was the, it was their crucible. It was their dark night of the soul. It was their heart of darkness. Like, all these things coming together. They had to bury demons. They had to overcome insecurities. They had to, find all the challenges that have been plaguing them for 7 episodes. And I think maybe even like, I think the one who's probably the most behind is Willow, which is fascinating. But I feel like everyone else has sort of like come face to face with the thing they needed to face and hurdled it, even with, and maybe like Borman, maybe the other one, but I think the fact of the Curious not working, I think that's like his big, I'm over the ledge type situation for him. Graydon comes to terms with both his power and his feelings. Elora with her journey with magic. Kit with her relationship with Jade and Elora. And there's a lot of scenes with her and Willow too, which I thought were very interesting, because they haven't been really paired together. I don't think much at all.
Yeah, you get a couple conversations, but not really anything personal.
Yeah, so I thought that was like another just good sort of way to bring them together, and yeah, it feels like, we got over that thing, and now we're ready for the final test.
Yeah, I love a lot of what you said there about sort of these characters breaking through, but even the people that are lagging behind, Borman and Willow in this case, it's still like, if you're not ready to make the breakthrough, you're sort of, whether you realize it or not, you're still getting to the point of confrontation of your insecurity, which I think is such a huge theme of the show. It's a huge theme of Willow in general. I mean, that was what he was battling in the film.
Right.
From the finger test in the original movie, it's about being insecure with his own gut instincts, with his choices, with his confidence, his crisis of adequacy. Borman sort of facing the same things here, but Borman's is pretty subtle. He's racked with guilt. His entire arc has been, can I be who I want to be, while also atoning for mistakes I may have made. It's still ambiguous about who did what. We'll talk a little bit about the Chimerian Curious and the fact that it didn't work. And then for Willow, Mims comes back into the story in some horror movie type ways. It's some dark side visions for him.
When she was like so obscured.
Oh,
I was like, no, please no.
Don't turn. Yeah, I was like, she's gonna have zombie makeup on or something. And sure as hell, yes, she did. Great to see her return. A quick fun side note: I knew that Harrison Davis, Warwick's son, had done stunt work as Willow, but apparently so did she. Because in the group photo that John Kasdan posted before this episode aired, you could see Warwick and Annabelle together in the front, and she's got her dad's wig and a blue thing on and everything.
You love to see it.
I guess he was like, my stunt doubles are my kids. Save some money.
The family that Willow's together.
Yeah.
Stays
honestly,
together, gets paid together.
100%. Get that money. Jack Kilmer, get that money. Everybody involved, the legacy players. But there's so much good in this in terms of legacy, in terms of people sort of making those breakthroughs. And I think breakthrough really is a big theme. If everything so far has been insecurity, and the only moments up until this point, well, some of the key moments up until this point of breakthrough, you look at like Kit and Elora, right? Like they had a little bit of like, we've developed an understanding in Nockmar, but then that I like that the show was smart enough and bold enough to say, like, just because you understand each other a little bit more doesn't mean you're suddenly cool. And then their only other moments of honesty were under the influence of the truth plums. So it's like we haven't had a genuine by choice moment. So the leap with everything with them works perfectly. But even up until then, there's all of these like very classic mythic visual storytelling things that George Lucas loves to do, and the stuff that he's created, and he does still have the created by on this, characters created by. You have Kit rocking Madame Mardigan's sword on her back now after she's been saved from Elora's spell, and Elora's spell is such a powerful thrust that eradicates all of the remaining blonde hair, all the dye that she has left, and she just becomes full Elora while she pulls Kit from this water, this mysterious orange water. And it's like double, triple, quadruple, like there's so much rebirth imagery happening throughout this entire thing. How did a lot of that resonate with you? As it's because it works for young people in a way of like, they might not know those tropes and everything, but for us, it's like to see them presented in fresh ways is really cool.
Yeah, I think like pretty much every time I've talked about Willow, I think I've said like the Kit and Elora scenes are the ones that always grabbed me, because it is that very complicated type relationship of like they both on paper have the same objective specifically, but there's so much baked in to the the dynamic where it's at first Kit doesn't care for her because she's just the next girl in line, right? She's just that. She's Miss Muffins, she's and then that morphs into she's the object that's robbed me of my father, right? And then for Elora, it's this kind of like this job of proving to others and herself, right? Of who she is, and that's sort of like the struggle for her, and those two characters are just like an epic clashing point. So yeah, I think to really put them through a lot of different things together, again, it's almost like a complete arc in itself. She does save her, but then there's still like weird looks, right? Like we don't know what's going on most of the time. Like Kit's still kind of messed up, and she's like giving her the eyes, and she's like, what are you looking at? And then like even at the dinner scene, they're like very kind of curt with each other. And then it really just sort of like bubbles into that like visually just incredible starry reflection. Like it's insane. The visually, this episode was something else. The colors on display, the ability to use the sea and how it reflects and is water but also solid, and it's like it was just so cool. And to see those themes like you talk about, like with rebirth and regeneration and all those things all just sort of like come together, and to do so in a very character driven, character focused way, I think is always the super satisfying thing.
And first of all, to your point, I mean, it's gorgeous. Jamie Childs directed this episode. The whole shows look great, but the choices here, the framing, it lends itself to feel more heightened, more fantastical, more like a magical sort of, like you said, the word crucible. Like it feels, it's already an otherworldly world, and this feels like the next plane of that they really are leaving something. They play with the perspective of the characters on time. We don't know if it's been days, weeks, months, and that's never answered. It doesn't matter. It's just about the forward momentum, and in that, to have those moments, those quiet moments, like you talked about, like, you know, the what are you looking at, and the different little things to slowly get them to the place of having a real conversation, because they didn't, neither of them chose their lot in life,
Right.
and I think that's what binds them. Like their goal binds them, like you said, very literally. The quest, you know, who their adoptive slash real dad is and isn't, like
Mm-hmm.
Mad Mardigan, as Willow points out angrily. I have as much a right to her as you do. She's as mine as much as she is yours.
Yeah.
Matt Mardigan was the original choice. He took the baby. I mean, he lost
Mm-hmm.
her in like 0.2 seconds, but like he did adopt her
But
for
again,
a hot minute.
yep.
You know, he had a journey. But you know, they're intrinsically linked,
Yeah.
and
And
I think
and
that
yeah, it's like,
okay.
and also the way the inverse is presented, right? Where it's like
Hmm.
Kit's big moment is like, I never wanted to be a princess, right?
Hmm.
And then Laura's like, I always did. You know,
Yeah.
it's like just the way that it's like they complement each other and clash against each other like just so well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's a lot of the contrast that the characters raise is one of the great strengths of the show. I mean, something
Hmm.
that, to look at somebody else that has been, I don't know if he's been under discussed in general, or just, you know, he's been the more subtle play as Graydon.
Yeah.
And when Graydon does get a moment, it's always, I mean, a couple times it's been straight up horrifying.
Hmm.
Other times it's been more like teen comedy. But I think that this episode really pushed Graydon to the place where I've liked him the most as a character. Not that I ever disliked him, but I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for him just because of his relationship with Kenneth,
Yeah.
the Mudmander,
Mudman, yeah.
uh, or Ken Knapsack, as I will be calling him from this point on. I texted Ken,
Yeah.
and I said, "There's a character this week named after you," and I did not tell him that it was a fantasy frog salamander
Yeah.
horse thing that is some sort of beast of burden that can drag boats through the
Hey, they
magical
wouldn't have
sea.
made it without him, you know. So
Nope, they wouldn't have. And what I love a, I don't even know what to call it, like a hanging beat, or just like something that just is like this moment where great. And this is where I really was like, I love this guy. I've
hmm.
gone from liking him to loving him. Is he sent Kenneth back,
Yeah.
which sort of was a leap of faith before the leap of faith. Like there's
Right.
the big dramatic one, but like Graydon gambles with all of their fates, but you understand why within the context of his whole arc, which is what the show does so beautifully with all the characters, and this will come
Hmm.
up repeatedly. This rewatch is going to be incredible. Like
Hmm.
rewatching them back to back to back to back, it's going to be a fun binge
I
because
mean, yeah, just really quickly on that.
yeah,
Like I was thinking just the other day when at
mhm.
the pilot, how it's a comedy beat when Kit is like, yeah, well, one fell out of the tree, so I gotta marry that one. And
Yes,
like
yeah,
that's like presented as like kind of dark comedy. And then
yes,
you get the story, like you add that is actually vital to this to his story, and it
it's
was
horrific.
bad. It was dark. And
It's horrific, and
yeah.
we still don't know why, and maybe
Hmm.
we won't know. And like, you know, hashtag renew Willow. I see that going around a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I would, please, let's do it. I'm both. I think you would agree. I'm both enamored with the smallness and like the family of the Willow fans, people that are talking about it, that it is kind of small, but at the same time, I want more of it. So it's like, you
Yeah.
know,
Like you want it to be healthy but intimate,
yeah,
right? It's
I
it's
would like it to
weird.
be a
Yeah.
decently sized hit.
Yeah.
The return of the $40 million movie. But yeah, it's like it tracks so beautifully with his arc because from his perspective, he's had agency robbed from him now at least two major times, one that we've seen
Hmm.
and one in flashback. And he's just been this kind, bookish kid that hasn't been appreciated by anybody, who has been sickly, and later we find out it was possession and stuff, and is scarred up and carries all this with him. And through Kenneth, he had a chance to make a better choice, and I feel
Yeah.
like it was such a, like, he could tell that he was getting sick the further and further and further he went away. from his home with Julian Glover off at the I guess the last restaurant on Earth, the last little inn before you get out into the sea, and he sent him back, and the characters. There's no argument about it. Like Borman's pissed, and it's valid to be scared. Now you have to walk, but it just felt really pure and really elegant for a character to just say like, we can't exploit that creature anymore. Like it has to go. That's very George Lucas. It's very it just feels right, especially for somebody that's caused so much harm. Like everybody wants to be able to affect something in a good way. And shout out to Kenneth for just having a great little arc. He's the ideal worker. He's like, I did my job. You're not paying me OT. I'm going back.
And visually it was so heartbreaking watching, because they did show him decaying, right? Like, and Graydon saw that, and I think that's another great thing about Graydon is like, or not great for him, but great for a character is like, he's always really been the outsider. He's had no history with any of them. Like he's not team Tyr-Asleen. He didn't know Mad Mardigan. He didn't know that, and so like everybody else in the group has a connection to somebody of like note, and he was the one who is just kind of along for the ride because he was made to feel responsible, like to be along for the ride. And so it's one of those things where it's like, even when I think it's Elora, when she's like, do you want to like hang out or whatever, and he's like, I just want to be with Kenneth, and and take care of him. I think it was that outsider coming forward even more, and sort of like him finding something of his own within the adventure and connecting to something that wasn't part of the like big grand scheme. I think was really nice for him. And then to make the decision without not by committee, right? Like he didn't take it to them and be like, hey, he's not doing well, we should. He just did it. So yeah, it's great agency for him.
His ability to trust his instincts flourishing here through this relationship with Kenneth, and with his shot in the dark, literally just like, I'm gonna grab this flute and I just feel it. And it took me a second. I actually hit the 10 seconds back rewind because I thought, is he packing a wand? Is this a reveal? And then I was like, no, it is the flute. And then Willow says, objects that mean a lot to us, I'm paraphrasing, can become conduits, which I love.
That's a really great feature.
Because I love the idea of like, I mean, it's something that I always liked about Harry Potter. Like Hagrid's wand was refashioned into an umbrella. Like I've always liked it doesn't need to be just because Shalindra had a wand, it doesn't mean that that's how magic works. Willow has a staff of unknown origin. I don't think we ever find out about Willow's staff, at least not yet. But it was a nice sort of moment of him sort of trusting himself. Like you said, it's not by committee. He's just becoming Graydon Haster of his own man. And, we had a little bit of that rebirth stuff in Wildwood. Like he is shaven and sort of is now trying to come to terms with his own feelings. Fun behind the scenes tidbit. I don't know if you saw John Kasdan's tweet that the only reason Tony Revolori is shaved is because he's in the next Wes Anderson movie. And Wes Anderson wanted him clean shaven. So that's a reshoot and a rewrite.
Wow.
So Graydon was going to have a goatee, and they weren't thinking anything about that.
Yeah.
Then they write the comedy beat of him getting shaven because of women.
Yeah.
Because but thought you said girls liked this. And he's like, he doesn't have a girlfriend. Like, so that whole bit is a little bit of Hollywooding. And I think John Kasdan said, no is almost never the answer, or something like that.
You just make it work, right?
Yeah, just figure it out. And so, but it works. It plays thematically. It plays so well. And I liked that Willow, who did, because he's dealing with a lot, and he's not necessarily being fair to the kids for the majority of the season. He can be crotchety and difficult with them. previously judged this guy just based on who his family was,
Yep.
and now finally gives him props and is like, you actually do have what it takes. Like that
Mhm.
was an impressive thing that you did. I mean, he one shot killed the Gale, the flying
Yeah.
Gale. So now they've got 3 down. Did they defeat the Scourge, or is the Scourge?
Oh, is the Scourge Jonas?
Yeah. I thought that they
Uh,
I thought the Scourge had survived.
yeah, because he's, like, still outside the forest before they go in, right?
Right. So I think that they've defeated 2 of them,
2.
or maybe we just thought they defeated 2 and now they have. In any case, the
Mhm.
Gales could be regenerating. I don't know. But it just blasts them. And just on a note of like the filmmaking of it, how great was the momentum and just the action blocking
It was
of
really
this.
good. Yeah.
Borman on top of the cart and the catching of the sword inside of his cleaver and twist flip, boom, magic blast. Like it was
Yeah.
just every player sort of having a Kit instinctively blocking a shuriken with her thing, but it getting stuck in her arm.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
That
no, it
played
was
really
it was
well.
really yeah, just great, exciting stuff, and that's another, like, facet of, this episode. This was the first episode of the season with a multiple writing credit type
Yes.
situation. Like, it wasn't a team necessarily, it was multiple looks, multiple passes, and it's like, just, like, watching it and thinking how loaded it was, like,
Mhm.
yeah, that needed a lot of eyes. Like,
Yeah.
that's a lot for one brain to process, and I think that, when you get really nice, like, complex, layered, exciting action scenes, I think that's usually that's a good indicator of a lot of brains working together harmoniously, not some, obviously sometimes multiple writers doesn't work out well.
Right.
But I think it's again another testament to the little team that they put together to make this show. They were all just on a great wavelength, and it's not a messy episode, and it's almost like they shared the load, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
Pacific Rim when you like drift with the other pilot,
Right.
So it's just a great testament to how they worked as a team in crafting it.
Yeah, I like that, emerging from the mines, much like a certain other fellowship. It had, it's traumatic, and there is loss, and they lost Allagash, and
Hmm.
from Kit's point of view, it's still magically ambiguous what was going on with Mad Mardigan, but she believes, and so does Elora, like that was her chance. She gave up her chance to save her dad or to reach her dad. So you come out of the mines in pain,
Hmm.
and with Kit, like she even has to recover her strength and her health and her balance and everything, but they are more of a unit than they realized coming out
Hmm.
of there. It's way more functional. The trust is sort of starting to build, and I think that's why it lends itself to moments like renewed confidence in Graydon, something that he didn't have with his own family. It leads to moments like we talked about with Alora and Kit sort of having further breakthroughs. I like that their relationship, like you said, like their scenes always have this really special sort of meat to them. It's like one sustained breakthrough. Like I
Yeah.
think that if we did a super cut of just Kit and Alora by the end, we would see one conversation. Like
Yeah.
it's one sort of therapy session across the season that we've been checking in with them on.
Hmm.
And, but like we said, with Willow and Borman, not everybody is having their breakthroughs. They might be slowly having it. Like in the case of Willow, he's being forced to have it, forced to
Yeah.
reckon with his visions, forced to deal with the fact that Elora has already seen what he's seen,
Hmm.
and he didn't know that she knew
It's like his
that.
last trick on
Yeah,
her.
she's headed toward death,
Yeah.
at least in some capacity. How did you feel about where he's at, what he revealed? The fact that it wasn't as simple as his family, besides Mims is dead, but that his wife and son, I forget his son's name, but I know Kaya is his wife, that
Yeah.
Kaya was lost during one of his adventures ambiguously. I
Hmm.
don't know if it was that she died while he was not home, and maybe like, but in any case, it wasn't that he lost his son, is that his son ran away out of resentment.
Yeah.
That he had only that it strengthens the connection to Mims so much because she was the kid that stayed.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's one of those things again where it's like, for as much as we got, it makes me both like makes me emotionally worried what the finale has in store. But also, yeah, I think in terms of Willow and his portrayal, I think we talked before, Warwick has said straight up, Mark in The Last Jedi influenced how I approach this. Yeah. Right. And I think there are so many great sort of parallels between Willow and Luke in those moments of their lives. And, just again, what guilt, how it manifests and forces you to be who you're not. Right. And like you think of Willow as a young man, right? And he's so bubbly and, just so kind and everything. And now he's crotchety and reserved and hiding demons. And it's such a, it's really like it's sad. It's like it's sad by design, right? To see your hero be like that. And it's not a, again, like some people, we don't need to litigate Luke Skywalker, but it's like some people don't respond well to that, right? Like
really?
They want to see, they want to see the hero be the hero all the time. And I think it is always so incredibly powerful to have them fall.
Well, the thing about Last Jedi, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it can be uncomfortable, but it is bold. I mean, it's what has me. It's what I've loved about Lucasfilm's handling of all of its legacy characters, Luke, Han, and Leia. I think I even said this when talking about Wildwood. Like, he's a comedic side character, but Rule doesn't go on the journey because Rule is done. Like, he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. He's nothing left to prove. His journey's over. He helped his friend. He did what he was supposed to do. Shalindria's gone. Razel's gone. Rule's got a family, and he's done. Yeah. But Han was not done. He reverted. Leia was not done. She kept fighting. Luke was not done. He had trauma. It does not sound like Indy's done based on what James Mangold has said about Dial of Destiny. Like, what is a hero at twilight? Like, it's that type of stuff. And for Willow, he sort of, I think, as much as Luke does with Rey and Kylo Ren, but maybe even more so, and then in a Warwick Davis-y ways, because he's got a more of a Britishness and a quirk to him, but he's doing a lot of projecting. Like, I couldn't help but really analyze the scene, the beginning of the training montage, the before the music pops off, when he's like, you're still holding back, you're still this, you're still that, like, why can't
those
you
parts of yourself?
Yeah, accept all of that. Yeah. And I'm like, Willow, buddy, the pot kettle black here, dude. Yeah. Like, you are absolutely not internalizing you're right, but you're not internalizing any of that. It's easy to see that in somebody else, which is something that all these characters do to a certain degree. I mean, they've all had to realize the classic, we're not so different, you and I. Like, Elora didn't ask to be the goddess empress that will deliver the entire world, spiritual chosen child. Just like Graydon didn't ask to be a vessel for evil, and Borman and Kit goes on about how much he hates Borman, but it's like there's a little bit of that. He was another one of my dad's chosen kids that took him away. Like, there's all kinds of we are each other Spider-Man meme pointing at stuff going on with these characters, that I thought that was a great place to have the breakthrough. Like, she's got her natural hair back. She gets a new outfit in this, that sort of like jean jacket skirt combo and stuff, which is cool. I like that Willow is a fantasy world where denim just plays. Like, it just, I don't even bat an eye at it.
No.
If I saw denim in Rings of Power, I would be like, what the hell is that? But in Willow, I'm like, it looks cool.
It's such a, like, again, we've talked before, like, I think that's why it's so fun of like a world to be into, right? It's why it feels very fresh to be here now. because it's like we are steeped in Star Wars, Westeros, Middle Earth.
Yeah.
And it's like now we're getting something that's like starting to break conventions. It's like, oh, you thought, no, that's fine. We're gonna put some modern music in. We're gonna
modern music, denim jackets. I mean, even the Chimerian Cuirass that we haven't seen work, which we'll get to, in that flashback, it's a modern looking piece of technology. Like it looks like Iron Man stuff, like it clicks and it links and it starts to integrate with then we both have a theory. We'll talk about that. But
even
it's
the spells visually feel unique in how they sort of like jag off and like
that's
connect in weird ways.
They're not just pew pew, but they're also not like super larger than life. They've got silly words. They have their own rules that they just throw at you. The exposition always feels right. The show does exposition so well, which is why it can break for a training montage. Like it's sort of, and again, I've made this point before, how fitting it is that this is John Kasdan, considering what his father did, and particularly in Star Wars. Part of the magic of Empire Strikes Back is that the answer to how long everything took is however long it needed to take.
Yeah.
And when you have something like Dagobah, where it's like, how long was he there? I don't know. As Pablo Hidalgo says, it moves at the speed of plot.
Right.
You're able to say, like, hey, we're on the Shattered Sea thing, and it's going to take a while, and they have to stop for rest, and Kenneth has to stop for rest, and why not just do this montage? But it's full of character moments too, and it's not just Willow teaching Elora the entire time. Then Kit is like, this is an opportunity for me and Jade, and then Graydon gets in on the sorcery stuff as well. And Borman there's a shot of Borman where he's like looking over the thing and drinking, and it's just full of so much character. And I watched that montage over and over and over again. And we'll just say it now. Yes, I watched the Kit Elora scene like 5-6 times. Like not Kit Elora, Kit Jade. Kit Elora, yes, but the Kit Jade, sort of like the follow up to Wildwood, like the yes, I love you, actually getting the kiss after the training. It just feels
and
like
not being under the influence of the truth plums. Like it's the honesty of of the journey taking its toll emotionally on them, right? And it's a positive way. Like usually you say toll in a negative way, but like this one, it has all piled in, and it's the moment they have deserved,
properly. It started to crystallize in the training, the cinematography. It's just stunning the way that it goes from being a combat scene into a romantic and not sexually explicit, but sexually intimate scene. Is blocked and directed really well. Those actors have chemistry. We were blessed this year, I think, with 3 undeniable chemistry moments. One is Daredevil and She-Hulk. Unreal chemistry.
Yeah, it's true.
2 is basically everyone in the Star Trek Strange New Worlds cast with each other. And then 3 is Kit and Jade, where I just every single time, like, they are money. And Erin Kellyman has been a proven commodity and just a proven talent, but I think that she has just gloriously not leveled up, but has gotten to play, because Memphis Nest is powerful, but she's not vulnerable to a certain degree. But she's not vulnerable. She's not cute. She's not insecure. She's not in love. Like, and she was very hardline badass for most of Falcon and Winter Soldier. We talked about Green Knight a little bit off air. Green Knight is a very ethereal performance, but Jade has let her flex every muscle. And she gets to be the literally, like, on paper, physically, in terms of skill level, more capable one of the two. She's on track to be this legendary knight. She's literally the first woman to be accepted into the Shining Legion, which I hope we do get to see by the time this is over. I would love to see her like suited up by the time the finale happens. But But then you have Kit, who is objectively not a great princess, hasn't really been the best daughter or sister, has, and Eric has not been a great prince either, and we'll talk about him. But she is the A personality when it comes to this romance.
Yeah, she's always the instigator.
Yep, always the instigator,
from pilot to here.
Yeah, and we're not. I don't say this to be funny or steamy on the internet, but like, it's a directorial choice that she's always on top.
Yeah,
like it's and someone could piece that clip out and make it a meme. Like Kit Panthalos always on top, but it's a choice.
She'll tell you who she is and she'll get on top. Yeah, like that is her. Yeah. That is her.
Good at intros.
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely it's a major choice because it mirrors the pilot so well, right? And the pilot scene where we talked about where that was Kit like just kind of like shooting from the hip and being like, "Yeah, I'm gonna bounce anyway." So
yeah,
now's my time. And it's like to do that, to block it very similarly in terms of where they are, where the camera is, and then to make it the most honest version of that, the one where I'm not gonna run away after I tell you or after I do this. And then it's so sweet because like later on, the way they sit together now is different, right? Like there's more sort of like they're very coupley. So yeah, it's just it was very good to, I think, again, do it here and not it's why it's such a great like crucible episode, because it's like we've gotten all this taken care of now, and now we can go do the thing that we gotta do.
Absolutely. I'm waiting for Borman now to pop up when they're cuddling and be like, knew it. Like
I shipped it from the beginning.
I was on board. Yeah, 100%. And speaking of the man, he's the last person in our main crew that we've yet to talk about.
Yeah.
For being as bombastic and charismatic and just, Omar's just a fantastic find.
Yeah.
Like, not that he's brand new to acting, he's not, but like just getting him to this A status on Disney Plus,
it's a Lucasfilm property.
It's huge fantasy opportunity. Big for representation, just big for being the legacy character's apprentice, in a lot of ways. Like he's one of the links as much as the kids are. And he's just been so funny and so radiant this entire time. Ken Knapsack, our fearless leader, he's going to be back either for the finale discussion or for the season discussion. But even when talking to him, like, I'll spoil one of his thoughts. Borman is his favorite by a mile. He loves Borman. He's like, Borman's my guy. I want to see him in Star Wars. I want to see him in everything. And with all of that said, I love that the penultimate episode for him, after all the swashbuckling and the sexual innuendo and everything, his whole thing is just, I got the magical item that I've been searching for years. That was the entire point of my mission, and it don't work. it for me anyway.
Yeah, I might suck a little.
Yes,
like it's that and that's his gigantic hurdle, and it's like to be. It's like, we got it with Allagash, but his reaction was, that stupid thing doesn't work, whereas Borman, like you said, this has been his, I forget how long it's been since Mad Mardigan left. Is it like 10 years or something?
Yeah, so it's been 20 years since the first movie, 20 years since the movie in canon, and then I think Mad Mardigan's been gone for it's hard to track. When there's the timing is set by the Sorcia Willow falling out, because she says how many moons ago she sent. So when Elora was like a kindergartner, he had already been sent out. So it's been a while.
It's been a while, maybe like 15 years or something.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, so I mean, for that amount of time, that's how long Borman's been stewing over that mission. What he wants that invincibility. You know, it's like a crazy thing because he doesn't like have much motive outside of just having that power. Like it's not like he wants to go do something with the Curious, right? He just wants it. He wants the protection. He wants whatever.
He wants it, but that's the thing is that what I love is he doesn't. It's not a sword.
Yeah.
It's not a bow. It's not a gun. He wants protection. He's a fearful guy. Like I think it's important to note, not to you, but just to the viewers, like Borman was not a knight like Madmartigan or like a rogue like Allagash. Like I think Allagash says Madmartigan called me up 20 years after the last time I saw him. So you get the idea that Allagash was probably pre-Willow movie,
right?
An ally of Madmartigan's, an old friend.
He might have got him stuck in that cage, you know?
Yeah, something exactly like exactly. Probably ran with him and Eric back in the day from Galadorn and stuff. But Borman was a squire, like he was a kid, and then he might be responsible, at least partially responsible, for Madmartigan being lost, and so it's like he's looking for protection, like he's afraid, he's motivated by fear, which I think, like even the way that he escaped Skellen, like he has to do the Han Solo thing and exaggerate all of his deeds because he's a coward, and I think that that's why it's not working. We talked off air. And we don't generally do predictions here because it's like you end up looking like a dummy the next week. But like, it's not a coincidence in my mind that Allagash and Borman cannot agree on what actually happened. They blame each other. It's like, no, you're the traitor. No, you're the traitor. You're the liar. You're the liar. And neither of them can get the cures to work.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's something to be said about the fact that it was made, as we find out in the flashback, and this Borman tells the legend to Kit, even though she cuts him off very rudely. It's that it was created by a mother for their kid.
Yeah.
And Borman, you have to come at it from that pure place. And I don't know, there's that one trailer shot where we see Kit kitted out, no pun intended. And
there is some armor plating to be seen.
Some armor plating that she does not have at the end of this.
Yeah.
And she's about to face Dark Eric and is still in regular clothes. So something's gonna go down.
And
feels
not to like close read on a trailer shot too much.
Yeah.
But there is also someone missing from that group shot.
Okay. Is it Borman?
No.
Oh. I'll have to look at it after.
Yeah, it's one of our friends of the group, of course.
Okay.
It's Graydon.
Interesting. Ooh.
Yeah. Graydon. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack with just that shot of who knows when it is. But yeah,
I think that could be the last shot of the season for all we know. Yeah.
I think the Curious point is a great one, and it feels so right. And I think that's something that's also great. I think a lot of the times people are afraid of obvious when obvious is not always wrong.
No,
like there isn't I don't think we should have the expectation to be tricked, right? Like sometimes obvious is right because it's earned. And I think when you talk about the way the Curious tracks and how it could potentially go to Kit is the worthy one to have it. And to have that be Madmartigan's pursuit, and the parental connection, like it's so cool. And you talked about like sort of legacy, as a huge part of the show in general. And I think that's what something is so cool about the way like Kit's character is coming together. And because we're nerds, we talk about swords too much, right? Like
a lot.
And we've talked about how it's cool, like she leaves with Sorsha's sword, right? And then she finds Madmartigan's sword, and it's like, this like synthesis of parents, right? And who's gonna use what? And now it looks like Sorsha's sword's gone. And now
seems like it was lost at some point. Maybe someone in the comments did she, because the trick is I have to go back and watch Wildwood.
Yeah, it may have stayed with the Bone Reavers.
I think because is it on her hip when they're about to kiss in Wildwood? That's the question.
I don't think
it's not. And she gets scooped up, then it's gone. Yeah, then it's at the camp.
Right. So it's not with her. Which is also like indicative of like it's not part of her story anymore, because when you think of like, again, with legacy and the symbolism of what those swords are, so like she gets Sorsha's sword, and that Sorsha's sword she used when she was serving Bevmorda, like it has tainted legacy to it. There's an aspect of evil.
It looks like a villain sword.
Yeah, like there's an aspect of evil behind it, and then with that, not so much evil, but just like the tense relationship with the mother, the expectation of, or not living up to expectation of her mother,
and the revelations sense that, you know, Sorsha deserves her day in court. I'm not going to be like F Sorsha, but what the hell with the whole kidnapping of Jade as a baby? So it's like, if it might, I'm not saying she's going to choose between her family and Jade. Like that, I don't think the story is endorsing that's kind of cynical, but there is sort of a, mom was making mistakes and dad was doing his best to protect. And I think the irony a little bit there is the Chimerian Cuirass was Sorsha and Madmartigan's goal, because it was the, well, if we don't want Willow to train her to be a sorceress to battle evil, maybe we can find a way to just protect her and we'll hide her in the meantime. It's like,
stick a nice plate on her.
Just put a plate on this kid and dye her hair and hide her. Like, but how cool would it be thematically if Kit the entire season's like, I've been replaced by you, and the Cuirass that was supposed to be found to protect Elora protects Kit Tantalos instead.
Exactly.
Like, it's like, no, you were not replaced.
Yeah, and just again with the swords, it's like to leave all the baggage of what Sorsha's sword represents behind. You know, because it's not something that's been touched on for a while, but the notion of like, oh, you are of evil, like you have descended from your grandmother's line, right? Like, that's something that's been hanging over her, and now to wield
the order of the worm. Order of the worm, and then they are the blood of the Six.
The Six, something like that.
So it's like the blood of the Six, I think, is part of the Order of the Worm. There's a lot of layers,
right?
So that's what's going on.
But and so to leave that behind, and to, without sort of being split in any direction, to wield fully Madmartigan's sword, who represents the free spirit, the discovery, the like almost like realignment of the soul, right? Like for him as well. I think is again just so cool. Such great like prop storytelling. Such great, again, the notion of legacy and like where do you come from and how does that, you know, push or pull you in any direction.
And what do you choose? Because you know, she wasn't there for it because she was not born. But like her dad's arc in that first film is, are you committed to anything? And when he finally says like, I serve the Nelwyn, not a kingdom, like that's him saying I choose friendship, which is his Han Solo moment. We've joked about how he does the Dustin Crops hyperspace line just in fantasy speak.
Exactly.
Like he's committing
the rogue.
Farboy and the Rogue. Like that's George loves that. And so like to have that weapon now pretending to hold a sword. I would very much like some Willow replica swords, by the way, if anybody's watching that.
Bring it on.
Wants to do that.
And what does Kit say in this episode? I didn't believe in anything my whole life. And I believe in you.
In anything. Yes.
Oh, it's like they're so
is her father.
They're so mirrored together. And it's great. Beautiful. It's a great relationship that we don't get to see like in two people, but it's so meaningful to both of them.
Absolutely. It's it's powerful. It just feels so right. And again, and to loop it back into Borman, I think that what he's realizing, and Sorsha sort of predicted this on him, like he'll do what he has to do because of a debt. But I think he's up until this point, he's misconstrued on what that means. Like in his mind, the debt was protect myself. Well, it was I can protect myself while fulfilling the debt, and what he thought that was we'll just finish the quest. You get the Cuirass, and then like I get the Cuirass, I win, and I, you know, Mads would be proud of me. But it's so much more than that, because sometimes you are a support player and there's honor in that too. And like you did find your own treasures. You found friends. You found you get to be an honest Thraxus Borman. You got to have Scorpia back and like find your love again and like find some people that at least like kind of respect you. I mean, Kit doesn't respect him, but like, you know, Graydon looks up to him a little bit. Like the group is slowly sort of warmed up to him. He's proven his mettle. Him and Allagash, like they didn't like fix everything before Allagash died, but you know, he protected them and he made good and he went into the mines that he ran from. So he's getting his rewards. He just doesn't realize them then. And I think that material reward not working is like, that's the stamp.
Right. Yeah. It's he thought he was, going to find Madmartigan's treasure, right? When he was actually riding alongside his treasure, his real treasure, and going in the service of finding his other treasure. You know, it's like the treasure of the kids. And it's like, it's so cool. And I think, actually, you may have to remind me, did Borman know they were looking for the Cuirass for Elora, or was it just like, was that a secret that Madmartigan and Sorsha kept, or?
I think it's ambiguous. We don't know what he knew as a squire. To my recollection, he was just, it might have just been Madmartigan's doing this and you're going to go because you're the squire. Like,
and he's
so
and
of course. Like it's a Madmartigan adventure post Willow. It's gold armored Madmartigan. I'm assuming, like, you know, the king consort, I guess, of some kind. That's funny. Madmartigan being in charge of anything, at least even for a time. So
again, very George Lucas.
100%. It's like these guys, zero qualifications, marrying way above their status. I love all that, and you know, we mentioned them. We're talking about characters and we're talking about challenges and crucibles. It wasn't all the journey. There's some other things on the journey we'll touch on before we'll talk about Julian Glover. We'll talk about sort of the dinner scene, and I think there's some fun ideas there. But if we're talking about main cast, we have to talk about, of course, Dempsey Burke playing Prince Eric, and then Roosevelt Laurenti Sellers playing Lily of Kashmir? Mark? Who it seemed like, you know, we're both royals that were trapped. At first, it's like, okay, maybe there's like a Blood of the Six is represented in different kingdoms. I started to go to that place in my mind. I was like, oh, are there other princes and princesses that are here that we're gonna find, or something? And now, he got bamboozled by a seductive a temptress, if you will.
It happens to the best of us again.
and desperation. Yeah, he says he walked for weeks. He was walking for weeks before he just ended up back in the city. He's drinking this stuff, and we don't know how that's affecting him. It's clearly mystical to some degree. And he gets to the point where not only does he, for a brief moment, cheat on Dove, he immediately regrets it, but there ain't no redemption for you in that moment, because then you make the next worst choice and you follow her into this temple, and he emerges as Dark Eric, as a goth baddie with no longer, which is just
also with a back strapped weapon.
Yes, with a really cool hilt. I don't know if that's going to be a staff or a sword. I didn't get a good look, but like, it is super cool. Really excited about that. And I just the having to, you go to save your brother and now you have to fight him. I mean, that's classic. That feels really right.
I think also something is shout out to Dempsey Burke, because like, we have obviously all these episodes we've done of Casterly Talk have done nothing but praise this cast, right? And he's not actually been a huge part of it. And at least, you know, on the adventure side. And I remember when he got taken in the first episode, I was worried, like, is he going to be like Will Byers a bit too much for one season, where it's like, we don't actually really see him do too much. But he's, of course, like the object of the sort of the impetus of the story. But yeah, I think he definitely has gotten some time now. I love the way he plays. He's like borderline airhead, right? Like he plays him as a surfer dude, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think it's very clever because it's both like endearing and you're also like, oh, this guy's an idiot. But then he also does make the right choices, you know, like, but then he also makes bad choices. So it's like, it's a very layered thing that I think could be originally sort of been like, oh, he's just kind of like doofusy and whatnot. But he's been able to really put a lot of depth into Eric for, again, like not too much screen time as far as the season goes. And he and Rosabelle are very good together.
Yeah, they've got great chemistry. She's playing. I liked it, you know, as you start to realize that maybe there's nefarious intent and that she might, whether she is the crone, whether she serves the crone, whatever remains to be seen. But the way that her lies start to play on the insecurities of both of the Tantalus kids, like, you know, how she's like, I want to choose freedom and I wanted to choose all these things. And I come from a place where you have to follow the rules and all that stuff. Like, she's saying all the right things. And when you connect that back, again, I can't wait for the binge watch. When you connect that back to what Willow says of Bavmorda's origins, that she had a lot of promise and she was, you know, young and she was kind and like all these things, it makes you wonder, like, when Lily's describing her own origin story, like, how much of it is true? Is this a recent thing? Like, we don't know, because I believe Julian Glover's character, this old fisherman, says,
and it references the story, right?
We were looking for a princess from Kashmir.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe at a time she was that, but because of this city, she's maintained her, you know, beautiful young form.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's trickery and the next episode she'll rip her face off and she'll be the crone. I don't know. Like, but either way, there's those seeds of time dilation in a fantasy way. Something's going on, but it all comes from a place of, like I've said, insecurity, but it comes from a place of fear, but it comes from natural things that young people want. Is the ability to break a rule and to just have that.
It's endlessly relatable, like
endlessly. I mean,
this is on pretty much every character level. Like,
this is truly Lucasfilm's first YA storyline, in live action. It really is,
for sure. It's such a, like, I mean, and again, like all great epic fantasy does that, but it's like this is so, again, specific, both, like we've talked about, both in terms of its like creative choices and then the age group of these core characters, right? Like, it's all those same challenges that, you know, you think about when, you know, as young people, when we were a little younger, but we still relate to it now. And like, you know, it's such a good place to be in for this story.
Yeah, absolutely. I love a lot of the way that, again, the cinematography, the production design. I love the way that the immemorial city doesn't have a naturally evil quality to it. I think it adds to the deception. Like, yeah, you can drink the water, but is it doing something to you that you don't notice? Is there, like, it doesn't look like an evil place. There's no one there. The Gales aren't even there. There's no one actively hurting you, but it is sort of breaking you. It's sucking the hope from within.
And was there a connection to the like orange liquid of the trolls?
I think
because they're like, they say they're serving the crone, right? Like,
they are serving the crone. Like, it feels like, it almost looked like when Eric and Kit, apologies for the yawn, had a long work day. When they almost like connect hands, I don't know if it was real. Like, I don't, like, I really don't know.
Another great thing.
Minds are really like, connected to the city.
Yeah. Like, I love that kind of stuff where it's like, was that? We'll never know. I hope they never tell us. Like,
yeah,
it's like,
and then it's like, you can have fun with it, because Willow talks about what the worm is. He kind of describes it almost kind of like, this world's like Balrog. Like it's this thing that was like just sent to the depths, and it's like it's beneath the world. And so there's the worm, and then there's the people that worship it, and the blood of the six, I guess, are the worshippers, and that goes all the way down to Bavmorda. And so it's like just this deep eldritch stuff that preys on Eric because he's alone, because of isolation. And the way that she sort of changes her tune and sort of, plays him like a fiddle because he's isolated, whereas these characters, they had a similar experience in Nockmar. I think, that episode's placement is perfect because coming out of Nockmar and then going into Wildwood and then going into the mines and then now on this journey here, Beyond the Shattered Sea, like they have each other, which is such a generic sounding thing to say. It was the friends we made along the way, but it really has shown. This entire show has been arguing against isolation as a practice in terms of leadership, with Sorsha and with the Galadorn policies and even with Willow taking the Nelwyn's underground out of his own guilt, which now has even more context because his son ran away out of resentment and shame. And so it's like, well, no one can run away if I take them all underground. Like that's even more sad now. I could protect everybody if I just cut us off. And
he took everyone to Octo.
It really did. Yeah, it would be like if Luke was like, "We're all going." Like,
everyone get in the Falcon.
Yeah, we're all going to be sad.
Yeah,
nobody leave a note. Yeah, it's really interesting the way that all of these thematic layers have come together across moments that you didn't expect to connect. Like you said, the what seems like just black comedy at the time with the dead Haster brother, or Graydon and Jade asking like, is Willow really that great a sorcerer? And it's like we see this training stuff and he's blocking spells and he's sort of feeling his mojo, and it's like he is, but he just has to believe he is. And he's defining great sorcerer by wins and losses, not by actual magical attunement. And I think that my read of his sort of like, I wasn't there when Kaya needed me, I lost her, and then my son left me. It's like, in his mind, a great sorcerer would have been able to do it all and protect family and never lose anyone. And it's about sort of what your expectations of yourself are, which plays into Borman. Like he expected, like, oh, I was on this mission, I should be able to finish it. And Kit is, I've always been, trained a certain way. I should be capable. I should be able to just be the hero. Jade faced her trials earlier than anybody else. Like I thought I was going to be this, and then suddenly there's blood on my hands right out of the gate. I've got to kill my father figure, who I then find out
who I am.
was a kidnapper.
Who I think I am.
So there's what they've done in a very like YA pop, sort of pop punk, like colorful romp of a show is so nuanced. Like
no, it's a very special endeavor that they've done, and which again, now that we're approaching the end and we're getting the it's starting to show a little more on social media, this sort of antsiness, the urgency we as fans are now feeling. Like, can you make sure this has a future? Like, please. Which is also a really funny, or not funny, but like it's fortunate, unfortunate crossover. I don't know what the heck Warrior Nun is. I don't know what it is. But all these people who I guess watched Warrior Nun, and they have like Save Warrior Nun hashtag in their like names, they're all like flocking to Willow. And there's this interesting like there's this interesting sort of overlap of these fandoms, who one of them has experienced the lack of renewal. I think that's what happened to Warrior Nun. I think it didn't get picked up to continue.
Right.
And now it's like, you're starting to see more and more people kind of rally to the cause, because it's a very, and it's great for Lucasfilm. Like I said multiple times, like I love the idea for Lucasfilm to really like spread its wings outside of Star Wars, you know, because that's what it can be. That's what it has been in the past. And I think Willow is such a great world that they've made. They have the right people doing all the right things. Like, you know, for as much as you can say like anything is flawless, like I think it has been such an like honestly good, well executed just season. Like I don't know what they have else to prove, you know, like what else could they do to make the case for more Willow? Like it's just such a like admirable endeavor that they've done.
Absolutely, I completely agree, and just beautifully said. And it's just the epitome of knowing what it is. Like, you know, when I've talked to Ken about it off air a little bit, like Ken is the first one to say, he's like, you know, it skews a little young, but you know, Ken's also older than we are. But he's like, it skews a little young. He's like, but it should. He's like, it knows. He's like, he goes, think about the 13-year-olds that are watching this right now. And like, this will become their world. This is going to be someone's Harry Potter.
It's like, my freaking Harry Potter now. like that's like it's so like we said, it's so relatable and it's so earnest and dynamic and attractive. Like it's just a very attractive show. And to that point of like it just decided what it was, to make a reference I'm sure you'll love. It put its horizon at the top. Like it decided we're not gonna run this down the middle. We're gonna be here and we're gonna stay here, you know, and whatever that means, it'll be interesting. And so
I mean, John Kasdan pretty much, he said it in a cheeky way, but he's like, you know, whether you love it or you're ambivalent or you're making your next hateful YouTube video, we look forward to your engagement on the next. Like it's like, it's not going to apologize for it. It has never in a landscape where so many things apologize for what they are. Brief moment for everybody to decide what that is in their minds for themselves. Nicky's thinking about Halo. He's thinking about Halo. I can feel it. Like things that are apologizing and feel like they need to be like, well, we can be inspired by it, but we really should try to like, no, John Kasdan is a child of the 80s. Which means he was a teen young man of the 90s. And you could feel both of those things all over this. I mean, training montage and, you know, 20 somethings making out and people casting spells and fun creatures and goth stuff and other people making out like this and music. Like it's just, it is so purely itself. Like, I can't wait to watch the movie and then watch the show together because it just feels like, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, of course that's that world 20 years later. I still keep forgetting to find out what the Earth is called in Willow. You know, we have Planetos for Martin, we have Arda for Tolkien. We have many worlds in Star Wars, of course, but I don't. Yeah, Tirisleen and assorted other kingdoms. That this feels like that world 20 years later, and it just plays. It's one of those things where I'm not having I guess is my final thought. I'm not having how are they going to wrap this up? Like, how is it going to, because it just feels like they got it. Like it's so supremely confident that it ends with the leap of faith, which, you know, I think maybe Kasdan was like, okay, relax. I'm not going to homage my dad 100%. I thought it was going to be a Last Crusade, walk off the cliff. Yeah. But then it was like, no, we're gonna embrace each other, and we're just gonna jump. And in my heart, well, I guess we'll see it in the next episode. In my heart, Jade jumped in right after him, and I think maybe Graydon and I'm sure Willow and Borman maybe were the last two. Willow wants to turn back. It's also at that point too. I want to go. Which, like, Willow, come on, man, you're so now. Like, but that's the point. But it was extremely powerful. And there's a couple, not plot holes or loose threads or things, but there's there's some room for fun, either for future seasons or for this finale. Things I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Will there be more Mims? Will there be Frangine? Because I thought they were both going to be in the show. Maybe I'm wrong. Is there going to be a Mad Mardigan, either from a certain angle or a DH, or I don't know, but Scorpia. What about Scorpia and this like slave revolt that she was going to lead? Like, so much going on, but it does bigness through smallness and smallness through bigness so well, which is something that I love. Like, it's all this, and then what does it come down to? Like, the board is set, and it's just these two young women, this one young man facing down, and like it's on.
Yeah,
and
the
they
key
both
emotional triangle is there. Yeah,
100%. And to what degree Willow fits in as the fourth piece, because it is, still the show named after him. Will Willow show up and accept that he is indeed a great sorcerer? Because I think the moment for him is that I hope he has, as if Willow was real, and I could talk to him, I would love for him to realize, like, you got these kids further than anyone's ever been.
Yeah.
Beyond the world, where Borman said it was impossible, that no one's ever done it. That even this fisherman, the Julian Glover fisherman character, I forget the character's name, but like, he not only does he allude sort of to this Kashmir legend, but he's been out there and has had all these quests for the point where he doesn't remember which quests
they
were
just
which.
blur together. Yeah,
it all blurs, and he's lost and he's alone, and you don't have to be that. Not that he's like pathetic or anything, but it's like that's what's, again, solitude. This show's advocating against it. And it's not always coming down on it in a clear way. Sorsha is very morally gray, and the decisions that she's made as a leader, they have not been great. But they've all been truthful. And this show embraces something that we've talked about a lot, which is that characters make suboptimal decisions. And sometimes that just happens. Like, if anyone watching is like, Eric turned to the dark side too soon, I'm not going to disagree with you. It is fast. But I also am like, within the context of this fantasy where time is sort of ambiguous and he's been through hell, he might not realize that's what he did. It looks like that to us, but he might be like, this is our heritage.
We don't know how long it took from him drinking, or when he's like on his back and she's pouring the thing in. We don't know the time between that and him stepping out.
We don't, and we don't know what his motivation is, or lack thereof. Like, we don't. That's what something exactly that happened, Sorsha imparted into Kit is, as much as I do, you are also have the blood of your grandmother, and so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But do you have any final thoughts on this episode before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's still one of those ones where it's like, I have too many thoughts, too many feelings. I don't know which ones to even say. It was a really epic hour of fantasy television. It felt so complete. It felt satisfying, heavy, funny. The pulling of the throwing star out of Kit's arm with the slap, like, just, it's full of so much like character heart, light moments with powerful moments. It's super exciting, and I can't wait to rewatch it at some point. And just again, in total with the show, I'm so excited for the finale. I think nothing has happened in the show to make me doubt that they would not absolutely stick the landing on it. I think it's gonna be so like satisfying, cathartic. Like, it'll be exactly what it needs to be. I think they didn't design this because it's not Star Wars or Marvel. I don't think they approached it in terms of like, we have 3 future seasons lined up for sure. No worries. I think they set out to be like, if it does end, it can end.
Right.
And it'll feel good. It'll feel complete.
It'll be the Willow sequel.
Right.
And then if it can be more, great. If not, it's Willow 2. and it is, and it's and just on a real world note, we had Maggie Botella on previously, who had seen the screeners. Nobody has seen the finale.
Yeah,
everybody has seen 1 through 7 if they've seen them. So it's like this is the card that they kept close to the chest.
And there are things I'm worried about in it. Like I am worried about where the loss will come from, because Willow, for as much as we're like, it's great, aspirational family, like lighthearted kind of fantasy, like it still is heavy, and like there's still, not everyone makes it out kind of situations in Willow, and so feel like something's gonna happen, something big. Who knows? I'm worried about this sort of direct line the crone has to Elora now, and what directions that might push her in, because she already used a pretty gnarly spell on Willow. And so it's that like perfect level of excitement and worry that should always exist when you're going into a season finale.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a much bigger conversation, but I've always advocated for the week-to-week drops, and this is why. It feels right. I love the anticipation. I love not knowing. I love these new characters. I can't wait to see where it goes, and I can't wait to talk about it with you. And I can pretty safely say, I mean, it's already locked. I mean, things happen, but I will say, Chase, our friend, aka That Gay Jedi, they are also one of the co-hosts on Pink Milk, will be joining us for the finale.
Who I got to see at the Willow premiere as well.
Yes, you were both at the Willow premiere. A wonderful evening for all. And you got to witness the Kit Jade relationship be birthed into this world on a big screen. I know that you were a changed, all of you changed people after that glorious relationship moment. And Ken might be back with us, so make sure give Ken a follow. He's gonna pop in some capacity because he has something to say. He says, I need to make a statement.
Come on, Ken.
A Willow State of the Union, if you will, from the leader here. But for right now, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and all of the Willow GIFs that you've been saving?
Oh yeah. You can find those in my phone album, on my photo reel. And you can follow me at Nequicious, Nequicious. I promise no great content, but hopefully there will be something you will enjoy. You can check out One and Done Film Club at the letter N Done Show. You can check out Imperial Senate Podcast at Senate Pod, and also on YouTube. And then what else? Rewatch Between Worlds on Alden Nicky Radio. And then I'll do what I did last time, and leave you with the wise words of stay hydrated, stay in Ruby Cruise, make good choices.
Yeah, Ruby Cruz, you have a standing invitation to come on Casterly Talk, so we can ask you about your immaculate style playing Kit and what it's like to not be on social media. It sounds incredible.
That's the primary thing we're trying to learn.
That's the exact build.
It's impossible to learn this power.
Yeah. Only from Kit Tantalos, who introduces herself with such grace. You can find Ken Knapsack, of course, at Ken Knapsack. All his links are down below. Pick up a copy of his book, Why We Love Star Wars. You can follow Casterly Talk. I always do the point wrong. Damn reflections. At Casterly Talk, Twitter. There's a QR code in the bottom right corner if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast feed, you can scroll down, links, find ways to support the show. We're going to be doing more live stuff soon, more interactive things. There's going to be a Willow season wrap-up party with everybody that's joined us on this journey, and maybe 1 or 2 more faces when the season is over. You can find me personally at that Alden Diaz, THATALDENDIAZ, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Hive. I think that's everything. Wow, I'm tired. This has been a wonderful one. I feel like Kenneth the Mudmander. I'm gonna stop decaying and just swim on back home. Goodbye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your journey. See you in the Memorial City. Have fun storming the castle. This has been Casterly Talk.